Hey guys, Super Rugby Pacific 2025 is almost at a close. It seems as good as time as any to come forward with some feedback on the fantasy competition and how we can make it the best it can be. There is a lot of room for improvement in this competition, so in this video I will be going over some of the problems I see in the game and presenting some suggestions on how we can go about fixing them. And the first issue I want to talk about is player pricing. Currently, the way the game is, the budget cap is just not a constraint whatsoever. You can pick all of the best players in the competition week in, week out, and just never have to worry about hitting the cap. The unlimited cap booster was just completely useless. I never used it. I don't know of anyone else using it as well. And the issue you get is that everybody ends up picking the same players. And it makes the whole competition less interesting, because you really want this game to be about making decisions, weighing up your options, thinking about how to best allocate your limited resources. Like, you get a strong pick in this position, and then this other position, maybe you want to get an undervalued pick because you think they're going to do good this week. And yeah, it really makes you think about more players and rewards players for having more knowledge about the wider squads and what's going on in every team. Now, the way to fix this, I mean, you could just lower the budget cap, but that doesn't really fix the problem. It's not the best solution. I think what you really need to do is introduce dynamic player pricing. And what this means is you have an algorithm where player prices will move up and down each week according to the performances that they've had every time they play. Because if you don't do this, you're always going to have a problem where you set your prices at the start of the season, but you're just going to get it wrong. There's going to be players that are sort of unknowns that turned out to be really good. There's going to be players who were in strong teams last year. That team is weaker this year, so they're always going to be overpriced. Like, it's just, you're never going to get it right trying to set the numbers yourself. So just bring in an algorithm. A lot of fantasy competitions already do it. It's not that difficult. You bring in an algorithm, make the prices move up and down, and that'll just take care of it for you week in and week out. The next thing I would like to suggest is adding a bench to this game, because it will fix one of the major frustrations we have. We've all experienced this, and that's when one or more of your players gets injured right before the game starts. You end up getting a big fat zero when you go to check your results, and you basically had no idea. There was nothing you could do about it. Adding a bench will just fix this problem completely. Most fantasy competitions do offer a bench for this reason. The players on the bench will automatically sub in if your starting player doesn't start for some reason or other. Alternatively, if this can't be done or isn't going to be done, it would be nice to have some sort of injury alert system, so that, say, if one of your players gets injured before the game starts, you get an email or something, some form of notification, so that you can jump in and adjust your team as needs be. Or just have a central social media presence for Fantasy Super Rugby, and you can just post any updates there about injuries as they happen. Some of the teams did do this year. They would post any changes to the starting lineup in the hour leading up to the game, and that was really good of those teams to do that, but it was quite inconsistent. So yeah, we really just would like to have a consistent place we can go and check to get this information. But really, the ideal solution would be to just add a bench. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is scoring. One of the issues with this game, I think, is that a lot of the point scoring, it's really lopsided towards the three picks in the outside backs. Like, those outside backs, they just score so many more points than everybody else. They have so much more scoring potential, and that's in contrast to, say, the props and locks, who just, they struggle to score more than 30 points every week, and it just means that it's just not as interesting to think about those picks, the props and the locks, and that's just a shame. That's just missing potential in the game. It should be fun to think about the picks you make in every position. And there's lots of ways you could go about fixing this. There's lots of different ways you could jiggle the numbers around. Like you could drop down the points that the outside backs get, or you could just increase the points that the props and the locks get for, scoring tries or other positive actions. Or you could do a mix of the two just to make it balance out a bit more. I'm okay with the outside backs being like the top guns, but it's really lopsided at the moment. It just needs to be balanced out. Another way of going about this would also be to add more categories for scoring points. I mean, we should be doing this anyway. There should be points for kicking 50-22s, for example, but you could also add categories that benefit the forwards a bit more. Things like post-contact meters, I really like that one. That's a really good metric just for how a player is performing. It'd be nice to have that. You could add one for tight head scrums. In general, I think the way points are allocated for scrums needs to be changed, because at the moment, if your scrum's too dominant and you're winning penalties, you're not actually getting allocated points for winning those scrums. So yeah, it just seems a bit counterintuitive, and it's really hard to pick which props are going to score, even when you're thinking hard about how they're performing and how well they're performing in their core role. You could also just increase the points they get for basic actions like tackles as well. Give those props and locks, 2 points for a tackle instead of 1, stuff like that. So yeah, definitely lots of ways you could go about doing this, but the main point is just to get it to balance out a bit. Some other minor tweaks I like. I kind of like if a penalty was -2 instead of -1, just because a knock on is -1, so it doesn't seem right that they're the same. I think you can add an extra point for an offload as well. I think they're probably worth a little bit more than 2, but other than that, yeah, I think minor tweaks could do the job here. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the transfer system, and specifically whether transfers should be unlimited like they are now or limited. I know a lot of people out there, they do want to see limited transfers like you see commonly in a lot of other fantasy competitions, but controversially, maybe from me, I think there are a lot of positives about having unlimited transfers after just experiencing it for this whole season. I do think it's actually more fun because you are getting to make more decisions every week. You're getting to make more choices. You're able to choose 15 guys for your team. And I think there's a danger with these competitions that have limited transfers where it can just kind of feel like you're trying to keep your head above water in terms of keeping ahead of your injuries and keeping ahead of buys. It feels like you're always looking at the schedule, making sure you're not picking guys who are going to be on bye. You're looking at those weeks where more than one team is bye, because those are really tough. They can just screw you over. So yeah, it feels like you're just playing this sort of scheduling and logistics game when making your picks, when in reality, I think in fantasy, you want to be thinking about your picks in terms of how good is this player? Like what is their potential in the matchups coming up? Like, are they representing their value? That sort of thing. I think that's where the fun is for me. And look, there are some positives to having limited transfers as well. You do kind of get more attached to your players because they're with you more often. They're not so disposable. Some of them will be with you week in and week out. And you do develop that affinity with your players. But honestly, I think I kind of do prefer the unlimited system more. And I think there is potential to fix another problem with the unlimited transfers as well. And that's a problem that a lot of fantasy games have, where players just tend to drift off through the season because maybe they forget one week to update their team, or they just get too busy or something. And as soon as that happens, you're out of the running in terms of the global leaderboard or even just your friend leagues. And I think if you have the unlimited system, you can kind of market the game in a way where you have the overall season standings, the season leaderboard, but you can also make it just a week-on-week thing as well. Like, if you can bring in prizes, I mean, there already are weekly prizes in the game, but let's say you put a bit more focus on them, make them a bit more appealing. Doesn't even have to be cash prizes as well. It can just be, you know, signed merch or stuff like that. And just try and get people into it week on week, kind of casually, instead of just trying to hook them in it from the start. And if you go on all your shows on Sky or whatever, the presenters there, they're always giving fantasy a shout out, giving it a mention. And if you get them to point out that there's weekly prizes and there's just a reason to come back this week, even if you missed the last week or even if you haven't been in from the beginning, just make people feel like it's worthwhile. And if you have unlimited transfers, like, you can do that, right? It doesn't matter what your picks were before. You can just come in and choose a whole new team, even if your team from when you signed up at the competition is all injured and redundant. So there definitely is an opportunity there, I think, to fix a problem that a lot of other fantasy competitions have kind of struggled with, just keeping that retention through the season. Another thing I want to talk about is how stats are presented in the game. Basically, it would just be really nice if we had access to more stats and were able to just display the list of players and arrange them using other statistics other than just total points, average, percent selected, last round points. I mean, it was fantastic when they finally added average to the game. I mean, that was really desperately needed. Great that we got it eventually, but there are extra stats that would be kind of useful. I do like the points per minute stat, average minutes played, points per dollar. It's also kind of nice to have shorter term averages, like, you know, 3-game average, 5-game average. That gives us a better preview of how players have been going more recently rather than over the whole season. And there's a lot of stats you can add. You don't need to go crazy, but the other thing that would be nice as well, if we could just sort of display all the players in a table rather than just having to look at them arranged by one stat at a time as well. Something else that'd be really nice to have as well is a live match center where you can go and click on a match and it'll just list all of the players participating in that game and just show their fantasy points as well. At the moment, if you want to see how a player's points are going, I mean, it's easy if you've got that player in your team, but if you don't have them in your team, you have to like go and look them up in the lists and then click on them and then go to fixtures and scroll down to the bottom to get the current fixture and then look in there. Like, it's really inefficient if you're just watching a game and curious how the players are going. And another thing that would be nice as well, when looking at a player's profile, if there was a tab just to show their cumulative stats for the season. At the moment, there's no way for us to see that. We just have to go into every fixture, look at every single game, and if you're interested in the cumulative stuff, you'd have to add it all up. So yeah, it'd just be nice to have that display right there somewhere in the profile. And lastly, one thing that would be nice to have is just increased sort of social networking capabilities. And what I mean by that is just having a like a forum or messaging system built into the game for, say, the private league, so that players can just sort of post messages, whether it's banter or talking strategy, just to increase engagement a little bit, so that leagues can build a little bit of camaraderie. And another thing that would be nice as well is if there was like a bigger official social media presence on the major social media networks, just to act as a nexus where sort of everyone playing the game can sort of go there and just engage on the posts and talk fantasy with one another. I mentioned earlier as well as about how this would be useful for posting injury updates. Could also be used for players to send live feedback as well. So yeah, it'd be really nice to have a bit more effort put into something like that. Now, just to sum it all up, guys, my big suggestions were: introduce dynamic player pricing so that player prices move up and down every week according to their performances. Reduce the budget cap just a little bit. Also add a bench, because this will help relieve the frustration when your starting player gets injured just before the start of the match. We have players on the bench, they can be automatically subbed in. It just fixes the problem completely. Another thing I want to see is improvements to the scoring. In particular, I'd like to see a better distribution of points being allocated across all the positions rather than just be really concentrated in the outside backs. The outside backs can still be the top guns, but just narrow it up a bit. Give props and locks a bit more love. Also add some more points categories as well. We've got to give guys points for 50-22s. I like the idea of giving post-contact meters points, at least for the forwards. And also clean up how scrum points get allocated to the front rowers as well. It's not very clear at the moment. Would be nice to see props getting rewarded for winning penalties at scrums as well. Also keep the unlimited transfers system. I think it's more fun. If you do go the limited transfers route, then please be generous with the number of transfers you allocate every week. Give more transfers in those weeks where a lot of teams are going to be on bye as well. And when it comes to prizes, I'd like to see more of a focus put on weekly prizes and just turning the game into something where there's just a fresh competition, a fresh leaderboard every week, as well as having the whole seasonal thing, just to improve player retention across the season. Give people a reason to log in and pick a team, even if they've missed a few weeks here and there early in the season, or if they've fallen behind on the leaderboards or in their leagues. Give them a reason to log back in and create a new team this week. Just make it feel fresh each week and offer people prizes for that to incentivize it. And lastly, just add some social capabilities as well. Add to the league some messaging or forum type capabilities so people can kind of chat and banter to one another. And also create a more centralized social media presence that's just dedicated to the fantasy Super Rugby. You can send injury updates here, and it just gives somewhere for players to sort of come to and naturally just chat to each other in the comments on the posts and all that sort of thing. Anyway, guys, that'll do it from me. Let me know what your thoughts are, if you think I've identified the problems correctly, what you think about my suggestions, and if you think there's anything I've missed as well. Yeah, I'm really interested to hear other people's thoughts, especially you people who have stuck around to the end of the season. You've played the whole thing. You're probably quite engaged with the competition. You probably have a pretty good understanding of how things works. Overall, I think this competition, I've enjoyed a lot this year, but yeah, I think it definitely has a lot of room to improve. I think it's quite far away from standards we've seen set by much older fantasy competitions and even fantasy rugby competitions, but I still enjoyed it a lot. I'm looking forward to next year, and I think if they pick up these suggestions and if they execute on them well, yeah, I think we'll have a really high quality, entertaining, engaging competition to go forward with, and I'd be really happy. So let me know what you guys think. Have a good rest of your week, and I'll catch you in the next one.